Hey guys, it's Destiny, and last night they revealed Black Swan kit as well as her signature light cone and what it does. So today I thought we'd go over that. Of course, if you guys enjoy videos like these, do make sure to subscribe, leave a like to support the video. And lastly, what is a game that you guys are looking forward to or about to actually start playing? For me, it's definitely going to be Persona 3 Reload. I'm super excited for that. But yeah, just let me know in the comments down below any games you are excited for. Without further ado though, let's get straight into it. So here we have Black Swan's character preview. I thought we would quickly go over this so I can see how her light cone would fully synergize with her kits, because they did reveal a good amount of things when it comes to Black Swan's kit in this preview here, which she looks incredible. I also like the new way that they're showing this off. As we can see, they revealed all her traces, which when it comes to her traces are definitely going to be very nice for being able to inflict more Arcana stacks. With her very first trace, if she uses her skill to hit an enemy that has Wind Shear, Burn, Bleed, or Shock, each of these debuffs respectively has a chance of inflicting one extra stack of Arcana. So what's really good about this is, let's say the enemy actually had all four of these debuffs on them. They had Wind Shear, Bleed, Burn, and Shock. When you use your skill, you have a chance of inflicting one stack as it is. So what's really nice about this is that you're basically now going to inflict 5 stacks if you had all of those debuffs, because each one respectively, you'll be able to inflict an additional stack. So your stacks would go, let's say if they had 0 stacks, you should, in this hypothetical here, you would go to 5 stacks. This trace allows her skill to do that. So her basic attack, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, her basic attack also does this. So Black Swan will be consistently inflicting these Arcana stacks with her basic attack and her skill. And this is really important for something that is in regard to her light cone as well, but overall just her kit. And if we were to look real quick as well, the Arcana is right here, which is basically when the enemy takes their turn, this card flip will happen and boom, you do all that damage from all your stacks. I did mention in the previous video that Black Swan will be a very backloaded character, and definitely this kit reveal, I think, makes it even more apparent that she's very backloaded, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, because this allows her to have numerous ways of potentially being played depending on your team comp. Of course, your goal though is definitely going to be to stack as many of the cards as you can, as many Arcana stacks, I mean, as you can, because if you look real quick right here for her talent in particular, when she has 3 stacks, she will inflict Wind DOT to adjacent enemies and has a chance of inflicting 1 stack of Arcana to adjacent targets as well. So now you can get more stacks on the adjacent enemies rather than just a singular enemy in the middle. And then also, when she has over 7 stacks, the damage over time inflicted this time ignores a certain percentage of defense of both the target and the adjacent targets. This is going to be really good because if you guys know what the dot set does, you ignore 18% defense with that set. So you're going to have a bunch of defense reduction in a sense with Black Swan, because her skill also reduces the defense of the target and the adjacent targets. I did cover this already because I noticed in live stream after she did her skill, she was able to also reduce their defense. So this is going to be really good. Black Swan is just going to heavily reduce the defense of enemies. Some of it is primarily in relation to her dot damage doing more damage, and then she's also going to increase the damage dealt by a certain amount equal to a percentage of the effect hit rate that she has. So depending on how much effect hit rate that will be needed, I would assume it's going to be a hefty amount though. Because of the fact that she is a damage or time-centric character, she more than likely is going to have base chances in her kit. So you'll definitely want a lot of effect hit rate. But overall, her kit looks pretty promising in my opinion. I did have a few people ask me, and I likely will make another video regarding her kit in particular, just to give a more thorough in-depth as to what Black Swan can potentially bring to the table. So when we're looking at the light cone here is Reforged Remembrance. Beautiful light cone. I love the art of this light cone. It is so freaking nice. I'm honestly going to pull the light cone just because of this. But as we see, we have a pretty decent amount of stats with this light cone at level 80. And for the light cone ability, it increases the wearer's effect hit rate by 40%. This is comparable to S5 Eyes of the Prey and S5 before the tutorial mission begins. So this more than implies that you definitely will want a lot of effect hit rate, as I mentioned before. And when the wearer deals damage to an enemy inflicted with wind shear, burn, shock, or bleed, they will individually gain 1 stack of profit. This effect can stack up to 4 times, which this will increase the wearer's attack by 5%, and the damage over time they deal will ignore 7.2% of the target's defense. You have even more defense ignore now. Black Swan's kit, in my opinion, is just really good for just ignoring enemies' defenses. Enemies don't even have defense at this point. They have a little bit of defense when they're facing a character like her. But if we were to take a quick look, since it is 4 stacks, you'll effectively get a 20% attack increase, and you'll also effectively be able to ignore 28.8% of a target's defense, which when you pair this with a dot set, and you also pair this if you have 7 Arcana stacks and her skill, this is a bunch of defense that's just going to be ignored. Slycone looks very promising for that reason. If I'm not mistaken, if we take a quick look at her character preview, something that's very important here is that when she inflicts Epiphany on all enemies with her ultimate, which this is what her ultimate does, the Arcana effect is regarded as wind shear, bleed, burn, and shock effects. This means that Black Swan should be able to get all 4 of these stacks when she uses her ultimate. And honestly, this Lycone looks incredible. I would honestly suggest it, but I will give you guys Lycone alternatives in just a little bit. But this Lycone so far looks pretty promising. This Lycone is absolutely adorable. Oh my goodness. I want this Lycone just because of the art. I love Misha. Misha is so cute. And this increases the wearer's break effect by 28%. And when the wearer uses their ultimate, increases the crit rate by 15%, lasting for 2 turns. Not too shabby. I think this Lycone can definitely have potential. Not too sure on which character specifically right now, but I can see this Lycone being pretty good. Now we have the Lycone preview. We're going to have Resolution Shines as Pearls of Sweat. There's a 60% base chance, which this will pair nicely with characters that have a good amount of effect hit rate, so they can actually inflict this. But this will apply ensnared on the hit enemy, and ensnared enemies' defenses will decrease by 12% for 1 turn. So this is just really good on numerous Nihility characters. This is really, really good on Pela. You could use this on some of the damage over time characters. I've seen some builds with Gwynnifin using this. If you want Gwynnifin to be a little more supportive, still doing her own damage, of course, but a little more supportive, because then she could do her Fire Kiss plus ensnared. This could potentially also work on Black Swan as well if you want Black Swan to do even more defense decreases onto the enemy. And this will likely help the team a bit more as well, because this isn't only linked to damage over time. This is just, if ensnares on the enemy, then the enemy's defense will just decrease. And along with her skill, this will just be really good. So I can see this Lycone potentially being a really nice alternative just for increasing team damage as well. And then Dance, Dance, Dance. Now this Lycone, it is the good stuff. This Lycone is so freaking good on Harmony characters. Like if you want to have a Dance, Dance, Dance Tingyun, Dance, Dance, Dance Asta, the reason why this is good is because your allies' actions are advanced forward. So if you have a character that has energy regeneration rope and then also maybe an energy regeneration 2-piece set, just the rope alone though typically is enough. Then you'll be able to get consistent ultimates with that character. You're going to be advancing your team forward by a good amount consistently. So this Lycone, especially at S5, I'm a huge fan of it. I would recommend it on a bunch of the Harmony characters. So overall, really good Lycone. But if I were to give you guys some alternatives to the Black Swan Lycone, so based off what her kit does from what we've seen so far and what I went over regarding it, and then if we were to take a look at the Lycones. Okay, so for our Nihility Lycones, here's what we have. So right off the bat, I would recommend Eyes of the Prey if you do have this Lycone. Eyes of the Prey at S5 will be able to give you that 40% effect hit rate, similarly to Reforged Remembrance, and also increase your damage over time by 48%, which is really good for allowing for that backloaded damage with Black Swan to be further increased damage-wise. So having the increased dot will definitely be beneficial. So this Lycone for sure is going to be one of her greatest options in my personal opinion. Another option I could see working is before the tutorial mission begins, because it will allow you to get 40% effect hit rate. And when the wearer attacks defense reduced enemies, you regenerate 8 energy. The reason why this Lycone in particular is going to be good is 1, you do get that effect hit rate, but 2, regenerating that 8 energy depending on the total energy cost can allow you to go from a certain amount of turns for your ultimate to a reduced turn with your ultimate. So you'll be able to get your ultimate a turn faster with this Lycone here. It ultimately depends on her energy cost, but I'll definitely go over this Lycone once Black Swan is also here and give you guys an energy chart to see how much of a difference it makes. But so far, I'm feeling pretty good about this Lycone as well as an alternative for getting just more energy using her ultimate more. So this could definitely be a great option for sure. As I mentioned before, Resolution Shines as Pearls of Sweat can be an option just because of the fact that Ensnared is a really good debuff to inflict onto enemies for Black Swan's damage, but also the team's damage. So this could be an option as well. You could also technically maybe use Fermata as well because this increases your break effect dealt by the wearer, but also increases the damage dealt to enemies inflicted with shock or wind shear by, let's say you had it S5 by 32%, and this also applies to damage over time. But I would recommend perhaps the other Lycones more just because it gives you that effect hit rate. And depending on if we get new Lycones in 2.0, which I'm pretty sure we will be, then you could also take a look at those. So before you jump to Fermata, I would wait and see what the new Lycones entail because those new Lycones may possibly have something really good for Black Swan. So overall with Black Swan's Lycone, do I recommend this Lycone? If you are a huge fan of Black Swan, I definitely would because this Lycone definitely synergizes very well with her kit. But if you cannot get this Lycone, it is a-okay because you can use Lycones like Eyes of the Prey and all the other Lycones I also mentioned as well. Maybe even new Lycones as well that may come out soon. That could also be a potential. And if you rather just save your Jades for another character, like let's say you wanted Sparkle and Black Swan, and you rather just save those pulls that you would do on the Lycone for Sparkle instead, then that can also be a consideration as to why you would skip this Lycone. But if you're all in for Black Swan, I think this Lycone is definitely a good option overall. So I hope you guys enjoyed my Lycone review and just my thoughts on Black Swan in general that we've seen so far. I will go over her kit more in depth, more likely in my next video. I didn't want the whole video to end up being only Black Swan's kit, so that's why I only pointed out very specific parts that would be in relation to Lycone and just certain things that I noticed about her kit that I thought were very much worth mentioning. And I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and all that good stuff. And I hope you all have a good one. Peace.